Okay, so I just finished making and filming my Mockingjay video, but that one was the non-spoiler, you can watch this if you haven't read it yet video. This one, which I think I've wanted to do this for both Catching Fire and Hunger Games, but I feel like this one is really necessary. This one is about the ending and some of the more in-depth parts of the story that I think really need to be addressed just because I like talking. Anyway, so one of the things I would like to touch on, I know I'm following everybody else, is the whole Gale Peeta controversy, because it comes into the end, as we know, because since you have read it, and if you're watching this and you haven't read it yet, don't be mad at me for spoilers. I mean, don't be an idiot. Anyway, because as we know, Katniss ends up with Peeta. And we don't actually know, I would like to say, if they got married or not. We just know that they lived together and that they had children. So, basically, I was always a Team Peeta, and I know the whole team thing's a Twilight thing, but get off your high horses, everybody has a favorite, okay? Anyway, I loved Peeta from the very beginning. When I first read Hunger Games, the first one, I never really felt that there was anything really going on with Katniss and Gale. Maybe that's because I'm just one of those people that when a character says, we're not dating, I actually believe it. So, yeah. I never really felt like there was anything going on between Gale and Katniss except, you know, when he was about to say, I love you, maybe? I don't know. Suzanne Collins, could you answer that for us? So I was always on Team Peeta, and as I was reading Hunger Games, I kind of forgot about Gale, to be honest, until she mentioned him again at the end. And, in Catching Fire, I was just like, Gale, please back off. Let them be happy, or let Katniss realize that she's secretly in love with Peeta, which is a little far-fetched, I'll be honest, but still. And I think even at the end, there are a lot of people who are like, oh, well, Katniss wasn't really in love with Peeta. It wasn't like the kind of normal love. I'm like, first of all, what exactly is normal love? Love isn't really normal, is it? Anyway. And I think that Katniss did have a stronger love, I think, than most people do now. And like, I've seen this picture that says, you know, I wonder if I'm the Katniss to anyone's Peeta, but that's probably crazy, and it says the word soulmate in the middle. And I think that that is an idea that most people have abandoned, is the idea of like a soulmate, like somebody that is on the earth that is kind of made for you, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they're like exactly like you, because Peeta and Katniss are nothing alike, and they're not necessarily completely opposites either, because they have, you know, a like mindset from being in the games together, even though Peeta went through all that torturing and hijacking with his brain a little messed up. And they do have that common bond, but their personalities also complement each other, whereas with Gale and Katniss, their personalities are so much alike, they tend to build upon each other. If anybody watches 30 Rock, if you ever watched the episode A Double-Edged Sword, rewatch it and you'll know what I'm talking about. Sometimes when you have things in common with each other, it kind of can escalate into something that isn't really good or healthy. And it doesn't really work out very well. I feel like if Gale had ended up with Katniss, there would have been a lot of arguing and it wouldn't have been very happy, whereas Peeta has a more of a step back and be calm kind of personality, so even if Katniss kind of, you know, got like really angry, I feel like he would just, you know, take a step back, let her calm down, and that's kind of the kind of person she needs to be around, because that's the kind of person that Prim was, you know. And that brings me to another topic. Did Gale kill Prim? No, he did not. Gale designed weapons for the rebel cause to help them, you know, defeat the Capitol. He had no way of knowing how or when those weapons would be used, and even the most genius inventions can be corrupted and used for something that wasn't their intentional purpose. If you've ever heard about the guy who invented dynamite, he never thought that that could be used as something to actually kill or hurt people. He just, he was like, thought it was a good thing. No one ever invents something thinking that it's going to be something evil or used in an evil way, unless you're like Doofenshmirtz from Phineas and Ferb. So it's just like, it's kind of stupid to think that Gale really did kill Prim. We don't really know for sure. I do believe that Snow did not drop those bombs on the Capital children. Whether it was intentionally set by Coin or whether it was a mistake, I don't know. But I really don't think that it's fair to blame Gale for something like that, because it was really something he had no control over at all. So I don't think that Gale killed Prim, but I guess Katniss can't get around the fact that it was his invention that did it, especially with all of the, the stuff she's had to face with, like, the ruthless killing and everything. I think it's just hard for her to accept. And I feel like Katniss has this mindset of that accidents do not happen. Like, I've always noticed that, like, in the book, she always has to have some kind of backstory of why something happened, even if it's completely absurd. Like, she has a hard time accepting that Pete is just a kind person. Instead, she goes on this, oh, well, he must have a conspiracy theory. He's trying to kill me. No. He can't just be a nice person. So, I feel like Katniss always has to have some kind of complicated explanation for things. There was one more thing I wanted to address. Right. Peeta's hijacking. People say that, Peeta changed after that. And that's probably kind of true. But I also feel like people don't understand. They feel like, oh, Peeta was never the same afterwards. Like, he was just a completely different person. So I would, you can't even consider their past relationship in the other books. And I'm like, that's not really true, because I feel like over time Peeta came back to himself. Like, Katniss is always saying how she never thought she would see Peeta, smile again, or, talk with a certain voice or something, and he did. The real Peeta was still underneath that, and it just took a long time for him to let go of this, horrible image that they have of Katniss and these things in his head that they put there. But I do think that over time, Peeta made, if not a full recovery, a miraculous recovery, because I don't think anybody expected him to ever be the same again. And I feel like he was him still, very much. Trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to address. And I feel like if anybody even watches my videos, I might have a lot of comments on this one. Finally, because I never get comments. Not to sound whiny or anything. But, Mockingjay is definitely my favorite of the 3 books. Catching Fire being my least favorite, which I feel like is very the opposite of what everyone else thinks. Everyone's like, oh, I love Catching Fire, and Mockingjay sucks because everyone dies in it. Prim's death was the fastest, and people are like, oh, that was horribly written, I didn't even know what happened. I'm like, well, yeah, that's because I know this myself. When you read a book, you tend to skip over, like, every other line or so, or you just kind of almost skip off an entire paragraph if there's no dialogue in it. I'm guilty of this. So, if you really read carefully, it's quite simple to see that she died. But the only person, I'm sorry to admit, the only person I cried for was Finnick. That death was just, ugh. The only person I cried for in all 3 books. I didn't cry when Rue died, not when Prim died. Finnick crushed me. Especially after watching Mainstay Pro's Finnick and Annie videos, which you should definitely check out. That was just, like, I couldn't even handle it emotionally. Anyway, I'm really excited for Catching Fire coming out. Are you? This is my last book review on the Hunger Games, and I don't think I'm going to be making any more reading Hunger Games videos. Maybe I'll read some of Catching Fire, just because I don't want any copyright issues, plus, like, nobody's really watching him anymore. And, everyone's looking forward to Catching Fire. And so I was so happy when they picked Jenna Malone to be Johanna, because I wanted her to be Johanna from the beginning. I called it. Okay, so this is the end of my video, and that's all I have to say.